Call our meeting back into order, please. Thank you for being here. Kristen, next up is Horry County Acceleration Academy.
Yes, sir. We'd like to welcome Horry County Acceleration Academy, who's here with us today. We'll begin with the introduction and recommendation. The staff recommends that the SCPCSD board approve the replication school application received from Horry County Acceleration Academy, or HCAA. This recommendation is based on comprehensive and rigorous analyses of educational, operational, and business plans of the proposed charter school, as well as on a review of the information provided as part of the interview and capacity exercise provided by the review team. The SCPCSD staff focused on the application and approval criteria in accordance with sections 5940-60 and 70 of the South Carolina Charter Schools Act. The mission of Horry County Acceleration Academy is to re-engage young adults not experiencing success in the traditional high school setting by helping them to identify their potential, overcome obstacles, build confidence, and successfully complete the academic programming needed to earn their high school diploma and lay the foundation for a brighter future. The applicant proposes to operate as an alternative education campus, or AEC, located in the North Myrtle Beach, Conway area of Horry County, replicating an existing high school, Low Country Acceleration Academy. The applicant proposes to serve 200 students in grades 9 through 12 up to 21 years of age in its first year, adding 100 students per year with a cap of 500 students. The school model is designed to re-engage and provide support for the success of students who have not thrived in traditional school environments. The instructional model features personalized learning, blended learning, competency-based learning, social-emotional learning, and post-secondary planning. In addition, the school model includes a flexible schedule, a year-round calendar allowing students to enroll at any time during the year, extended school hours, sound non-academic supports, and crucial community partnerships offering wraparound services. The model's proven success is evidenced by Acceleration Academy schools across the country, and more recently in the organization's current school, Low Country Acceleration Academy, who opened last August and has already had 7 graduates and will have 10 more in May. The school's unique structure enables learning to take place in a comfortable, non-traditional coffee shop style learning environment. This non-traditional structure also allows students to build their own schedules during orientation, allowing students to accommodate outside commitments such as work, families, or childcare. The application outlines the multi-tiered system of supports framework designed to provide targeted supports to struggling students, the child find process, as well as plans to determine goals and accommodations for the students with individual education programs, 504 plans, as well as support services for English language learners. Additionally, the applicant provides a variety of opportunities for students recognized as gifted and talented learners. The application narrative provides evidence that the governing board of the proposed school has strong bylaws, a clear diversity of skills and experiences with a plan for further development by adding Horry County community members to the board. It further demonstrates substantial capacity to govern the proposed school, outline the process for founding committee members transitioning to the board, electing new board members, and board professional development. The application provides clearly defined criteria and strategies for the recruitment of quality administrators and will ensure the director holds a South Carolina administrative certificate or 1 year of school-based administrative experience. HCAA will likely serve the students from the schools within Horry County with the highest dropout percentages, which include North Myrtle Beach High School, Loris High School, Conway High School, and Carolina Forest High School. The average demographics for the 4 high schools are 55.8% white, 26% African American, 11.72% Hispanic, 4.82% two or more races, and 1% Asian. The applicant expects demographics at Horry County Acceleration Academy to closely resemble that of the 4 high schools. The applicant's business plan models LAA's plan, where the EMO AA is responsible for fiscal management of the school. The financial disbursement agreement among AA, the South Carolina Acceleration Academy's board, SCAA, HCAA, and the SCPCSD will not change throughout the duration of the charter. The SCAA Board of Directors will receive 13% of eligible funds for board expenses, scholarships, and additional items for students and the school at the discretion of the board. The SCPCSD retains a 2% administrative fee, and AA will receive 85% to cover all operational, educational, and staff expenses related to the school. The school will not rely on donations or fundraisers for the sustained operation of the school. AA will outsource local accounting and grant management functions to Veris CPA, a local South Carolina firm which specializes in such work and is experienced in South Carolina regulatory requirements. The SCPCSD is confident in the applicant's ability to remain fiscally solvent based on the success of the business plan currently in place at LAA. The final SCPCSD conclusion. In alignment with Section 59-40-60F of the South Carolina Charter Schools Act, the review team assessed the required components of the Horry County Acceleration Academy application, bringing emphasis into its review to the identification of the specific target population, the research-based evidence that the proposed program would meet the identified needs of the target population, and the school's overall capacity. Based on a thorough analysis, the South Carolina Public Charter School District team has determined that Horry County Acceleration Academy has the capacity to sufficiently implement the aligned program with a likelihood of success. Overall, the applicant provided sufficient evidence that all the key factors are in place for the successful establishment of a replication school, and the SCPCSD recommends approval of HCAA's charter. Do you have public comment? Okay. I welcome the Horry County Acceleration. Forward and 15 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amy Lasser. I serve as the chair of the board for the South Carolina Acceleration Academy. Just have a few slides to go through with y'all today, and then we'll open it up for any questions that you may have of us. So I'm not sure who's running the slides. Okay, you can go to the next one. I'm just going to, this quick overview. We're going to talk about why we chose to replicate in Horry County. We're going to go through how we'll replicate through the governance, the recruitment, the education program, and the facilities. And then we'll also address the sense of urgency around creating this replication. And then, like I said, open it up for any questions at the end. So I'm going to let my colleague Ned get started with telling about why we chose Horry County.
Before we start, just understand that there's I don't know if it's up, there's a 15-minute time.
Oh, yes.
I'm not that long.
We'll be concise.
All right.
Thank you. My name is Ned Moore, longtime resident of Horry County, and I've had 2 children go through the school there, summer school system in Horry County. And really, that's part of the reason why I'm excited about this opportunity for that. We feel like Horry County is just a fertile grounds for this type of model. Many surveys were sent out. The community recognizes that 80% of the community agrees that there's, a need. Well, the community really agrees about that, but 80% of our targeted group are graduating in 4 years. So we feel like it's a great opportunity to help with that. Again, we have targeted schools, Carolina Forest, Conway High School, North Myrtle Beach, Forest, as we talked about. So, the geographic location will be incredibly important for that. Again, part of the reason Horry County is so good is the location and the proximity it has to Charleston and the replication of the support that we can provide each other without taking from each other. So we also feel like that's an incredibly important aspect of it. There can be shared professional development opportunities. So we really like that idea. Also, the unemployment rate is higher in Horry County. You know, we get these youth job ready. And I guess the last part I'd kind of think about is the expansion in Horry County. The growth rate of Horry County is going so fast. You know, I think it's about 30% growth rate since 2010. And I think just that income, the influx, the public schools are having a hard time keeping up. The specialized children coming in. So again, we think this is a great time for it to be in Horry County.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the replication. You can move on actually to the next slide. So for our replication, with the governance, as was stated, we will be run by one unified board for the Low Country Acceleration Academy and the Horry County Acceleration Academy. We currently have plans to expand the number of members of the Horry County community on our board. We recognize the importance of education being in the hands of the local community. And so we want to make sure that there are voices and representation from that community on the board that will be governing the school. We plan to use the existing board members that we already have. You can go to the next slide. Use our existing board members and our networks that we have across the state to increase our board capacity. And for the next one, just to talk a little bit about recruitment. You know, being a part of the Acceleration Academy family is a really great thing for many reasons, and the recruitment services are part of that. They have an entire team within Acceleration Academy that is dedicated to recruitment. So they man the call center. It's not a question of our leadership in the school or, you know, any of the school staff having to take time away from the kids to try to fill that recruitment piece. So we have social media experts. We have a call center that is manned through Acceleration Academy. And so, you know, that combined with our on the ground, sort of boots on the ground effort to engage the community around the need for this school, the surveys that we've conducted, and doing things, like I said, through social media. They did a really cool, innovative video postcard that they mailed out in Charleston. So we plan to definitely use those best practices that we learned in Charleston in order to recruit the students for the school. And now I'm going to turn it over to Carla, I think, to talk a little bit about the education program.
Good afternoon. My name is Carla Ferret Clark, and I'll be talking about the education program. The Model Fidelity program is what we use to ensure that there are checks and balances in place when it comes down to making sure professional development and training for the GCs to ensure that the engagement for the GCs and the experience for the GCs are all in place. In short, you have to have those checks and balances in place. And so our Horry County Acceleration Academy will mirror that. They will use those same resources to ensure we are operating according to our procedures, policies, and guidelines that are in place.
Okay. Yeah. That's okay.
Okay.
And I'm back to talk just briefly about the facility. We are in the process of identifying a facility, but this just kind of gives you an idea of what it is that we're looking for. In a shopping center, ideally a very large facility, 8,000 to 12,000 square feet. We definitely want it close to transportation, any public transportation that exists within Horry County. The open floor plan, so sort of an abandoned department store works well for the type of facility that we're looking for. You can go on to the next slide. And so just making sure that we have access to the food services, kitchenette, there's snacks and drinks available. Obviously, we need internet and Wi-Fi ready and be able to secure those internet connections for our GCs and plenty of parking as well. So we are, as I said, we are in the process of identifying that location now. And this just gives you a sample floor plan of how the academies are normally set up. Oh, there's a video. Sorry, will you click on that yet? Thank you, Mary. Awesome. Thank you so much. And to conclude, I'm going to ask Eddie to come up and address the sense of urgency that we have in establishing this replication school.
Thank you. Good evening, board. Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. Eddie Crosby, one of the board members for Acceleration Academy, former public educator for 17 years. The past 4, I've been an education consultant here in South Carolina. And I'm a firm believer of right people, right place, right time. And Acceleration Academy in Horry County makes complete sense. And I would welcome your approval of that. As you can see, as far as South Carolina's education rankings, we have an opportunity through this unique model to help continue to build school around the individual student. And with our team, your help, and the community there in Horry County is just that right fit at the right time. I appreciate your time and thank you.
All right, we don't know if we should sit back down, but we are happy to take any questions or.
Thank you. Next.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll open it up for the board. We'll start on Cindy's side again. Cindy, you can start with your questions.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to compliment what I hear, not only from you, but in the community, the strong recruitment ability and tenacity of AA to secure students and to be sure they continue on their path to through matriculation. Along that line, I wanted to just ask kind of a specific MO question. How do you both individualize the curriculum for a student and yet giving him or her some freedom of choice at pace, and yet maximize that pace so that they are moving through in a timely way, that they can see they're making progress, and you can get closer to your goal of their graduation?
I really think that it is those graduation coaches that provide that individualization when it comes to the pace and how our graduation candidates are working through the needed classes towards graduation. There's a number of assessment tools that are acceleration academies that are also ones that are widely used in education that can be used and that are used in the school setting to figure out how to best assist the students that we're working with in getting through. And so the ability for students to work from home, online courses, plus coming in at a minimum, 15 or so hours a week so that they have that face-to-face time with the graduation coaches so that they can tailor their progress to that student. I also think that being able to work on one course at a time is really critical to the success. Biology can be a lot. And if you can just focus on biology, then you can get through that and sort of be on to the next.
Let me ask you just follow quick on that. Is 15 hours a week, is that the South Carolina minimum for seat time, or does it, maybe our staff would know that, or somebody would know that, or that's consistent? I understand there is a minimum. I don't know what it is. I apologize for not knowing
So they just have to, ours is not related to seat time per se because it's also tracked when they're working on the online courses. So we just asked them to put in, and I was wrong on the 15, it was 12 at the school and then 12 out of school.
Gotcha. Now, let me ask you a question that might be for our staff. I'm not sure who it's for, so I'll just ask the atmosphere in the room. Is 85% is there such a thing as a normative percentage for an EMO, or what could anybody address that? These run on the continuum of this to that, or what is that like? Mr. Attorney, maybe, I don't know, whomever.
I do not know the answer to that question.
I can respond to it from a staff perspective, and then if the applicant wants to, I've seen range from the 6% we saw earlier today, which is one of the lower, to the 85%. And it changes fairly dramatically depending on what the specific terms of the contract are and what's paid for within that amount of money. I think the key piece of it is, what is remaining for the board to spend independently, what is being paid for out of the EMO's piece that is reimbursable. In other words, they're just school expenses that the EMO is simply managing the payment, and how much of it is an EMO fee. And so the 85% has not proven to be an unworkable model. For example, there's one school that used that 85% model before, and it then terminated the EMO using the 85% model. A recent analysis of that school shows that since the EMO was left, that school is still spending approximately 85% of its state funds on running the school, with 50% overage. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure that it really makes a whole lot of difference.
Yes.
How that
And it's
works.
part of choice. It's part of choice in arrangement too, just like we're built on it.
It's all about the details and management of the EMO by the local board once it gets going. I don't think you can sort of paint the broad brush.
Yes, thank you. Now, let me ask another question. The recruitment, it's not only recruitment, but it's the continuation of that with the student. I'm sure they start to, you don't see them or that sort of thing. From what I'm gleaning, you have a wonderful support mechanism to continue, to have students continue in their effort here. Is that recruitment, which you're saying is done by AA, is that done from a central office in Chicago, or where is that emanate from?
Yes, the call center is from the central office in Chicago. Now, there are things that are being done on the ground as well. Recently, at the Low Country Acceleration Academy, they had a contest or referrals, refer a friend type situation. And so those types of things, attending community events, they've set up at the Tanger outlets in Charleston, a table, various other places. Obviously, those are happening locally on the ground. But the call center, the support for printed materials, that type of thing comes from the central office.
And some of them have training in Southern accents.
That's my Georgia twang you're picking up on.
We can provide that if we need that. Let me ask this other question. In your capacity interview, I heard a question that I just want clarified. Someone on staff asked, is John Wise a member of the board, and is he a resident of South Carolina? And I don't know John Wise, but I wondered if they meant Joseph Wise, or tell me about that. Is there a John Wise? I thought maybe I was mistaken and they meant to say Joseph Wise, or tell me about Mr. Wise, whoever he is.
So John Wise was on our board and actually just last week emailed me that he's taken on a new position at work and did not have the time to give the board any longer and just resigned last week. But when we had the capacity hearing, John Wise was a board member. He was just out of town at the time and is a South Carolina resident. And that does make sense. We were confused about the specific question about him, but that would make sense that it maybe was supposed to be Joseph.
Right, that's what I wanted to put, and maybe when y'all get to me. So, okay, well, those are all my questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the application, and thank you for your commitment to this population of students in particular. I have one short question for you, and it's broad. There was a comment about the way that you would not be using philanthropy or relying on fundraising or something like that. Can you just say, do you or does your EMO, do you have a fundraising plan for the future? If not, why? I mean, how does raising private funding to meet the needs that don't come from either the EMO or state funding? So, to close that gap, whatever it may be.
Okay, and I may get Aaron to help a little bit here. But I do know that if there's any overages and if there's any costs over and above that 85% that we're getting to run the school, that Acceleration Academy does cover that. It's not a loan, we don't pay it back. It's just they have the funds to cover any overages like that. And Aaron, I don't know if you want to speak to any fundraising or anything on that end.
We typically, we haven't done any fundraising or needed to do. If there is coming in lower than expected, the EMO does cover that. But as we found, our model just takes a bit to grow. As you saw the day one figures versus 7 months later, it just, once we get going, we have not needed to do private fundraising.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Very good. One question, just inform me a little bit about your recruiting. Is Child Find Process a recruiting tool? And if so, what is that?
Child Find, Jacinta.
Right. According to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, we have to also look for students that may have disabilities off-site, on-site. So that's what the Child Find Process is about. Okay. So addressing the needs of those who need a little more intensive support. For example, a family may come in who's currently enrolled with us, and the mom says, you know what, I really need my child tested. His reading abilities are really low. What can you do? So that's one component of the Child Find Process.
Good, thank you. Last question is, with the staff and the teachers, will they report to the board or AA?
The staff and the teachers report to the board. Yeah.
Who compensates the teachers?
Acceleration Academy.
Thank you.
First, I want to say thank you for your vision to provide opportunities for success for students who need that second chance. And I was wondering about the programs you have. I noticed you mentioned IEPs and you mentioned students getting a high school diploma. What programs do you have in place to ensure success for all students regardless of what they need?
First of all, I did not say thank you so much for allowing us an opportunity to stand before you today, the board, and also members of Superintendent Neely's staff as well. But we have, what we do, we have number one, when our GCs come in, we call them the students' GCs, graduation candidates. When they do come in, they start with orientation. So we start out with successfully addressing their individual needs. From there, we develop a personalized learning plan. We also receive records from their previous schools that they've attended, whether it's here in South Carolina, neighboring districts, or out of state, to determine what are those needs for those GCs that come to us. If they do have an IEP, we do have special education teacher on staff. We do contract with school psychologists. So, and I myself am a former special education director. So it gives us an opportunity to take a look at the individual needs of the GCs just by reviewing what comes before us, and also those diagnostic assessments that we do give. So there is a lot of review of that GC, not only when they come in, but ongoing, assessing their individual needs so that they can progress and to get their high school diploma.
So high school diploma is the ultimate goal for all the students.
Yes, yes,
Is
definitely.
there a guidance counselor to be on staff to work?
We do. We have a career counselor and who is certified with the South Carolina Department of Education. We also have a life coach. So there's ongoing counseling with that GC on their graduation plan. So you can walk in tomorrow, Dr. Pope, and ask the GC, how many more credits do you need to graduate? I promise they will be able to tell you. So that's how we instill that individualization and also encourage that level of success so that they can move on.
And did they get help with taking work keys and
Yes,
placing it? And
actually, this is the week. Yes, we do. We have work keys, so we have several areas across our site where we've had GCs taking the work keys, but it's been quiet. So we take all the state assessments and also district assessments that we are to do as well.
I want to thank each one of you for coming to talk with us today and for submitting the application. It was very well done and very thorough. I have just one quick question, may have a follow-up to it. As far as the board composition, how many people are currently on the CAA board? And then to follow up, how many will be added from Horry County and what's that timeline?
So currently we are at 8 after John Wise, or at 7. 7. So we were at 8. And with his resignation, we're at 7. We would like equal representation from Charleston and Horry County. So currently that stands at 6 people in Charleston and 1 member from Horry County. And so we would look at adding 5 more members, hopefully, to give us even representation from each community.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I think Randy can cheat from that sheet. Yeah, yeah. I wanted to follow up, there was a question that Kip had, and I don't know if I heard it right. The question, who do teachers or administrative staff report to? Both. And what was the answer? They report to the board. Okay, teachers report to?
The school leader.
School leader, right, okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Generally, what are the reasons you're seeing students come knock on your door? Is it academic? Is it disciplinary? What causes you to be in existence?
Pre-pandemic or post-pandemic? I think that, and Dr. Bryant may be able to speak to this as the school leader, or Carla as a current teacher. But, you know, I think that one reason that our numbers, we went, you know, from 1 on day 1 to as many as we have now, I think the type of student that we are trying to re-engage is someone who is not necessarily a planner, not a student who has been very engaged in a traditional setting. And so, you know, when they come to us, often it's kids who want to find success. I've been in education for 20 years myself. And, you know, I work in dropout prevention, and, you know, kids who've had a good time in school don't wake up on their 17th birthday and go, you know what, I'm done with this. I think I'm going to move on to the next thing. They've had experiences, bad experiences in school that started really early. In my experience, dropping out is a process. It's not an event. And so we typically are kids who are coming to us, they are somewhere in that process. They are kids who don't feel heard. They're kids that have anxiety. They're kids who, you know, don't have friends, who feel isolated and lonely. There's kids who have a lot of other responsibilities. Maybe they're a teen parent. Maybe they're responsible for caregiving or holding down a job to help pay the bills in the family, and they need that more flexible environment that we offer.
Go ahead and
And I can add to that due to my personal experience. I was a high school dropout. And on March 6th, I retired from the Air Force. And so I'm very proud of being able to, what I call, have that rebound in life. I wasn't a trouble student. I just I made some bad decisions. And the opportunity that I was given, I was offered to go through a program to get my GED. This program will allow students to get their high school diploma. I was still able to be successful, and that's why it's near and dear to me. And I made my decision to become a teacher, and I went through an alternative pathway to do that. And I struggled in school. So having this program where students can have that one-on-one, the coaching, and just one-on-one is important. It was important. I was embarrassed. So having that one-on-one to be able to share, hey, I struggle in math. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? It's very important. I believe in this program wholeheartedly because I was that student. This is me, and I can see me in them. And so we need this. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your story. I have a friend, this was way back in the 80s. He was a high school dropout. It took the United States Navy to turn him around and make him to where he wanted an education. And that boy ended up at Cornell with a PhD in economic veterans. So you're filling in, at least in his point, where the Navy did. So I applaud you for your target audience and what you do.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, we need a motion.
Motion to approve the salary recommendation.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have discussion? Having none, I'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion to accept staff recommendation, please say aye.
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 None opposed. Congratulations.
All right, man.
Let's get a photo. Don't get in here. Let's get up here. There we go.
All right. Here, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
I can come forward.
I'm getting
We'll put it on, yeah, we'll put it on social media. There'll be a workshop this summer. You know, you don't have to go. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we got a few other areas.
John, like that. Nice to meet you. Well, thank you.
Congrats, Aaron. Thank you. Congratulations.
Chris, we got Palmetto Excel.
Okay, we are here with our last applicant of the day, Palmetto Excel. Welcome. Introduction and recommendation. The staff recommends that the SCPCSD board conditionally approve the charter school application received from Palmetto Excel Center, Palmetto Excel, based on securing funding. Currently, the school may not be eligible or eligible for minimal state or federal funding due to the school's proposal to serve students over the age of 21. This recommendation is based on comprehensive and rigorous analyses of the educational, operational, and business plan of the proposed charter school, as well as on a review of the information provided as part of the interview and capacity exercise. The SCPCSD staff focused on the application and approval criteria in accordance with Section 59-40-60 and 70 of the South Carolina Charter Schools Act. The mission of Palmetto Excel, locally driven and based on a national model of excellence, is to provide adults the opportunity and support to earn a high school diploma and post-secondary education while developing career paths that offer better than average employment and growth opportunities. The applicant desires to be a first in its kind adult alternative education campus charter school located in Charleston, designed to serve adults ages 21 and over who have not yet acquired a high school diploma. The school will do this in partnership with Goodwill Industries, who has a nationally recognized program with its 30 Excel centers in operation nationwide. The school model will closely replicate other Excel sites, and the school will have an operating relationship with Goodwill. Many major portions of school life, curricula, teacher professional development, enrollment practices will be modeled after current Goodwill Excel Center practices. Evidence of both community and broad academic need is plainly articulated in the application. During the capacity interview, a committee member cited a recently conducted survey of 3,000 adults without high school diplomas. 90% of those surveyed indicated that they would love to be a part of Excel if barriers such as childcare and transportation were removed. The proposed school intends to provide free drop-in care to any student who is a parent or guardian of a child 6 weeks to 12 years of age. The applicant provides a sound description of the community partnership and engagement with supporting agencies and demonstrates strong support from community leaders listed in the recommendation report, along with 2 additional letters of support from U.S. Congresswoman Nancy Mace and U.S. Senator Tim Scott, both included in your board packet. Palmetto Excel's well-developed instructional model is based on a decade of success in other previously established schools and centered on the needs of its targeted population. The applicant's curriculum is designed specifically for its target population with a focus on teaching the necessary content for a diploma while also developing proficiency in the technical and employability skills required to be gainfully employed. The application narrative describes skills aligned to the target population in 4 general categories: mastery of core subjects, life and career skills, learning and innovation skills, and information and media and technology skills. The applicant demonstrates a strong understanding of board governance and the crucial role governance plays in the success of the proposed school model. The applicant plans to have new board members receive training on its model in its first quarter of service. The board governance section of the application was completely developed and did not leave doubt that this board, armed with sound policy, will have the capacity to operate the school. The application narrative provides the racial makeup data for individuals without high school diplomas within Charleston County and surrounding counties, and includes specific recruitment strategies to ensure it meets the demographic requirements of the South Carolina Charter Schools Act. Palmetto Goodwill will assist Palmetto Excel staff in the development and execution of the school's marketing plan. While the applicant does not plan to provide transportation, it does have a plan to ensure transportation is not a barrier for its students, including gas cards, bus passes, and arranging carpooling. The proposed school will receive support from Palmetto Goodwill's finance department, including the CFO, who will lead the financial planning and budget process, and plans to contract with Veris CPA for additional accounting support. The planning committee is aware that the school must have a minimum of 100 enrolled students to ensure the school is financially solvent. The proposed school has contingencies, including committed financial support from Goodwill, $250,000 annually for the first 3 years as needed in the event of a shortfall, and $150,000 beginning year 4. The applicant's budget revenue and assumptions include state and federal funding, which is not available or available in very limited amounts, as the school is serving students over the age of 21, thus resulting in the applicant's conditional approval. Palmetto Goodwill also intends to support the school by providing various services for information technology, human resources, finance, marketing, community relations, board support, safety, loss prevention, and facilities free of charge. The proposed facility will be located on the Trident Tech campus. And the final CCS conclusion, in alignment with sections 59-40-60F of the South Carolina Charter Schools Act, the review team assessed the required components of Palmetto Excel's application, bringing emphasis in its review to the identification of the specific target population. The research-based evidence that the proposed program would meet the identified needs of the target population and the school's overall capacity. Based on factors derived from a thorough analysis, the SCPCSD team has determined that, with the exception of ensuring a steady stream of funding, the school demonstrates the capacity to sufficiently implement the aligned adult education program with a likelihood of success. Overall, the applicant provided sufficient evidence that all key factors are in place for the effective establishment of a new school. And we do have two people here for public comment, and that will be for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. So I will say, I believe she mentioned, the Congresswoman has asked me to share a prepared statement with you. I believe you all have that in your packet. But before I do so, I want to share she is a very enthusiastic supporter of this project. It's something that she's deeply passionate about. She tried to see it through when she was in the State House, ran into some roadblocks, and she's not quit on this project now that she's in Congress. So it's very important to her. I will share her words now. Congresswoman says, it is my understanding that you will soon be making decisions for the approval and funding of the Palmetto Excel Center in North Charleston, which is located within my congressional district. Having reviewed their submission, I believe it to be a worthy project, and I would ask that you give it full and fair consideration consistent with all appropriate guidelines and regulations. Charter schools exist to improve learning and create new, flexible ways in educating students, which supports South Carolina in reaching academic excellence. Palmetto Excel has a plan to achieve this goal. As the first school of its kind in our state, it will provide innovative, new choice to thousands of deserving students, the essence of the charter mission. Nearly 60,000 of my fellow community members in the Tri-County area do not have a high school diploma. This has a generational impact on both adults and children. Excel centers, most of which exist as charter schools, have a 10-year track record of success getting adults on the path to college, careers, and higher incomes. This approach to adult education is personal to me. As many know, I did not take a traditional path for my career. I dropped out of school, got a job, then earned my high school diploma through Trident Tech. That's why I'm such a big supporter of Palmetto Goodwill and this community-led effort to create a charter school for adults who deserve a second chance at a diploma. Again, I thank you for your assistance with this matter. It is my hope that this request receives serious and timely consideration due to the positive impact it will have on supporting students in our community. I also respectfully request that you keep me informed of the status of the funding decision. If I can provide additional information, please do not hesitate to contact myself or the staff. Provide a contact info.
Thank you.
Again, thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you. My name is Erica Wright, and I am currently a legislative and public policy advocate here in Columbia. But I am a native of North Charleston, South Carolina. That is my heart. And I am here to voice my support for the Palmetto Excel Center. Again, as a native of North Charleston who went on to earn a bachelor's degree from Winthrop and an MBA from the Citadel, I want to share my heart. I grew up as a product of an only single mother. My father was incarcerated at a young age. I know the quality of a good education because my mother was adamant that I get a good education. And so when I think about the peers that I grew up with, unfortunately in the neighborhoods that I lived in, they did not have that same opportunity. They never got that chance to thrive in the brick and mortar schools that I was blessed to go to. Palmetto Excel is the solution. I'm very passionate about that because of my communities that I serve and that I still live in. It's a new opportunity for a quality school choice for adults. And I know that if approved, this group behind me will create something special in partnership with Trident Tech, the cities of Charleston and North Charleston, Goodwill, and so many other key partners in our community that will forever change the lives of both the adult students and their children. We need this kind of innovation in North Charleston and quite frankly, across the state. For the 30,000 adults in my community with less than a diploma and who deserve and demand the opportunity to attend a quality school, I ask that you please approve the Palmetto Excel Center. It means so much to the people that I see every day, and I wish I had this for my friends and my peers growing up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Palmetto Excel has 15 minutes to address the board.
Did you have the committee members all introduce?
Yes, sir. Introduce themselves, I'm sorry?
Please.
Yes, certainly. I'll go first. My name is Michael Sabo. I am the board chair.
Jermaine Husser, a partner with Palmetto Excel.
Good afternoon, Brian Eskowitz, President CEO, Palmetto Goodwill.
You want board members? Just the committee members?
Who's actually going to be running the school?
I got you.
Or just our
I apologize. I thought you meant speakers.
Fran Welch, Dean of the School of Education, Health, and Human Performance at the College of Charleston.
Good afternoon, Amy Mims, work with Greenville County Schools.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Harvey with Charlestown Hotels.
Lee Days with Obviously Marketing. Kelly Kerr, Growth, Smarta.
Thank you so much. As I said earlier, my name is Michael Sabo. I am the Dean of Students at Granite Technical College with the Culinary Institute, but I'm also the board chair, and I've been in this position since inception of the entity. I just wanted to give you an honest thank you for allowing us to be here to talk about our application, and also a thank you to the staff, Mr. Neely. If you want feedback whether or not your process is rigorous, I can tell you that it is. We do appreciate it very much. So my team today is going to talk to you today, and we're not going to repeat the 100 pages of application that you have in front of you. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about one simple question. Can I get the next slide? That first, I'm sorry, yeah, go back to the next one. Thank you. That first question at the very top, why Palmetto Excel? For my role in my current position, I'm going to speak to our leadership. As I said, 6 years ago, we started a trek trying to figure out what we were going to do in terms of trying to make a difference in our community. We had heard about this great program in the city of Indianapolis, and I was the board chair of Palmetto Goodwill at the time, and the board voted to go and look into this program. So many of us in this room, we went out, got on a plane, flew in Indianapolis to meet with Ms. Betsy and her team. We had a chance to visit all the schools in Indianapolis. We had a chance to visit the schools, speak with the students, and quite frankly, we were all very, very moved. So we came back from that trip as a board and voted to fund a feasibility study. And in that feasibility study, we were alarmed to hear that in our state, we have over 500,000 people that fit the demographics of what the school could provide. So what I'm saying is there's tremendous need. We then put together this very talented board that you see on the screen. And as you can tell from their backgrounds, you have people in education, you have people in business, you have people in finance, and a very, very impressive resume. The application, you saw the bios. These people have years of leadership in our community. At the very bottom there, you also see we have a very strong planning committee partners. I call them our technical partners. Both Elliot and Jermaine were actually on the board prior to them in their current roles right now. When we were able and successful in getting some state funds to pilot this, the board voted to put out an application for someone who could lead us in the right direction, did a national search. Turns out we were looking in our backyard. Mr. Smalley was on our board, applied for the job, and the board voted to give him the position. So he rolled off the board at our recommendation and took a basic staff technical advice person spot. And same goes with Jermaine Husser. He was working for Goodwill and then currently stays with us as a technical advisor. I also am lucky to have Ms. Betsy here with us today. You're going to hear, she's the one who has basically created this model. And finally, last but not least, our entire Goodwill team that you have here with us. So I'm going to turn it over to the next person to come up and talk about their spot.
600,000 South Carolinians have less than a high school diploma. If you zoom in to the front doors of Palmetto Goodwill, in Charleston County, you'll find 30,000 Charlestonians, many like Erica talked about, that have less than a high school diploma. If you broaden the net, the Tri-County area which Palmetto Goodwill supports, infuses energy and resources, you'll find 60,000 individuals in the Tri-County that do not have a high school diploma who are being left behind in this great economy. The support that we have from our community, the numerous meetings, the tons of trips to Indianapolis with Betsy and her team, we were also able to show tremendous community support for the Excel Center. Not only Congresswoman Mace and Senator Scott, but Chamber of Commerce, to philanthropists like Anita Zucker. Our own students, potential students to the school, also demonstrate a great support for this type of innovation in Charleston, South Carolina.
Thank you, Jermaine. So I always say I have the best job in the world. There was a puzzle that I lived with for a long time as a school teacher, and what happened to the students that never finished. And what were their circumstances? I was very lucky to get to work with this incredibly talented board and staff for the last 5 years as they envisioned a way to really serve students and families that have these unfortunate circumstances of not having the opportunity to complete their high school diploma. So for us, 11 years ago, we knew we were really trying to figure out how we serve this population better. And what we came to understand is that if you're a child of someone who has dropped out of school, you're 50% more likely to drop out yourself. This is a pattern of generational poverty that we wanted to change. And so this is why we created the Excel Center. Over the past 10 years, the Excel Center has grown from 300 students in one school to nearly 10,000 students a year being served in 31 schools across the country. So I'm just going to tell you what you can expect, what we know happens when a student graduates from the Excel Center. What we've really come to understand that's most powerful is that diplomas really, really matter, and they pay off more than a GED does. We've heard the military comment today from the person that was here earlier that was testifying for another charter, and I think we heard this from this board. If you want to go into the military with a GED, some branches will not accept you. And those that will, you're only eligible for about 1 to 5% of the positions that are available within that branch. We know that adult students learn best when with a great in-person teaching and coaching, which is what this model includes. We know your Excel Center students will earn nearly $10,000 more per year than their peers. We know that 70% of students are employed and have a 50% wage increase within 6 months after graduation. And I should step back and say this is because over the last 10, 11 years, we've continued to research this model, as you see in the application. Through surveys, we know that 70% of Excel Center parents say their children are more focused on their own education and doing better in school. And in Indiana, studies have shown that the state recoups its investment in the Excel Center within 8 months of graduation with an annual $10 million in public assistance savings. This model works because we've built it with students and families in mind and making sure that it is central to our model. We have life coaches to provide wraparound supports and counseling to our students. We have a year-round calendar. We create customized graduation plans for every student as part of registration and orientation. And we have great teachers who deliver a curriculum design with each teacher's graduation objectives in mind, whether that be career or college or both. I'm honored to be along this path with this incredible board and this organization. Thank you.
So again, why Excel? I'm with Goodwill, and Goodwill has been a partner throughout this entire process, going back to Betsy and 11 years ago in Indianapolis. The Excel Center was born from Indianapolis. Both the Palmetto Goodwill Board and the Excel Board have been to Indianapolis to witness this, to experience the multi-generational impact it has. Goodwill, as an organization, will provide the Excel Center that infrastructure. So you heard about the CFO support. We've got marketing, IT, the HR piece. So it's got, you know, the backbone of Goodwill supporting it and propping it up, and the financial resources. So like I said, I'm Brian Itzkowitz. I am CEO of Palmetto Goodwill. I have been in the Goodwill network for 25 years, 10 of which was as CEO in Goodwill Industries of Arkansas, where we went through this process and created an Excel school and was able to see the impact that it's got for both the adults, student, and their children. This is multi-generational. At Goodwill, many people don't know, our focus is changing lives, and we do that through education, training, and employment. So why Excel? This fits perfect with our mission. This is who we are. We help people reach their full potential, and again, we do it through education, training, and employment. And it's such a need out there. As we heard with the statistics about if somebody is a dropout because of life circumstances, what happens to their children? The incarceration rate of people without diplomas. This is a game changer. And I just, partnering with y'all and the team here, just I think could be a huge game changer for the communities we serve, and again, the multi-generation, not just for the adult learner, but for their kids. Thank you.
You heard us talk about our facilities. I'm going to speak to the general resources. As we heard in the opening, we, maybe through my connections to Trident Technical College, our administration has agreed to co-locate this particular school on Trident's campus. And to me, this is a win for the model simply because, first of all, it's a low-cost option. Second of all, Trident will afford us all of an inclusive infrastructure. We have in the instructional classrooms, we have all the ADA compliances. We have tremendous access to our library system, to our custodial, sufficient parking. I could go on and on and on. I mean, the public safety aspect of it. So Trident has agreed to give us an all-inclusive lease where we were co-located. In terms of our budget, we have a very conservative budget based on a proven staff model. Our goal, as you heard earlier, is to open with 150 students, to scale it to 200 in the second year, and then finally to 300. And so we'll scale our staff accordingly to meet those demands, all of which can be funded on a per pupil-based funding model. And just in backup, as Kristen alerted to in our opening, Goodwill has already positioned to give us at least $250,000 a year for the first 3 years, which will soften some of the unknowns that we might encounter. Alex could talk to you about.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. I feel like I should say I'm an SCP CST parent, and I thank you for your support for Acceleration Academy because my son Cooper attends Acceleration Academy and is doing really well there. So thank you for that. So funding, a key question that's come up. We feel really optimistic about the potential for funding pathways for the school for two primary reasons. One is that we feel like there's a lot of precedent around Excel centers being opened as charters. Most of them are charters, and they are in other states where they are funded through state funds. And in addition, there was a question about federal funding. Excel centers all have qualified for and receive federal CSP funds. And so that's a really important kind of foundation and precedent that they are seen as charter schools that meet a certain set of criteria and standards as charters. So they're receiving CSP funds and they are funded through other states' local funds. Another precedent is we've had a lot of conversations with adult ed staff and leadership, and we've taken a look at these programs and we found that, you know, there are a lot of them that are actually serving, although most of their students are getting GEDs, they're on diploma pathways, some of them, over the age of 21. And what we've heard from them directly is that there's kind of a mix of funding. There's a mix of revenue that's going to them in our state right now. And we really feel like if we take a look at this, and we take a look at the Charter Act and charter funding, which affords flexibilities to charter schools, that we can really figure out a pathway to fund the school as a charter and ensure that pathway together with you. And my final note is just the support for the school is really overwhelming. Legislative support, local community support. And we feel like there's so many people kind of at the ready to, if we have to get creative with how we make this work, they're ready to really, put shoulder to wheel on this and advocate for the school. It may not require change, but if it did require change or a tweak to allow the funding, there's just a whole army of people who really want to see this school happen and who will get behind it to help support it. So those reasons give us a lot of optimism about the potential for funding the school as a charter.
So the question to you, board, why the Palmetto Excel Center? We've talked about our dynamic and diverse leadership team that's here with us and some that are not here. We talked about the need, not only in the state, but also around our headquarters of 60,000 individuals. We talked about results. There's an 11-year track record. This model moves the needle on employment. It moves the needle on salaries. $10,000 more for an individual that achieves a high school diploma. It moves the needle on saving the state money. 90% of the students we would serve, 18 to 35, taxpayers. We talk about Palmetto Goodwill. This is at the core, as Brian talked about, of their mission to help individuals achieve their full potential through the dignity and power of work, education, and training. We truly believe as an organization that we have the resources to make this available to this community that we love and are passionate about with Goodwill support. But lastly, we fundamentally, as a board and as a community, believe that this can transform, that we can break the cycle of generational poverty. 16 to 24-year-olds that come from communities that are low income and unresourced are 7 times likely to drop out of high school. We want to change that. We want to make a difference. We want to be transformational. We ask you today to believe in us that we can do this together. Thank you for your generous consideration of our application.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for coming before us today. I really appreciate you taking the time to work through this and to submit a really good application for our consideration.
Thank you.
Also, it's good for me to see my good friend Jermaine Husser out there today, and just a pleasure to see you once again after working on projects through the years. But 2 quick questions, and both around funding, as you can imagine. The first one is, as we know, Goodwill is promising $250,000 annually for the first 3 years. Can you just, is that a loan? Is that a grant? Is that, what is that?
Yeah, that'll be an investment. So part of the mission of Goodwill is to serve this particular population. And so what the board has decided to do, the Palmetto Goodwill Board, was to resource up to $250,000 as necessary in any budget year, the first year, the second year, and the third year. So if the money was then transferred and needed, it would be just an investment on the part of Goodwill. It would not be a grant.
And then I know there was some discussion as well about just, looking at some funding, and you had some really high level thoughts on state funding. Kind of what are some of the conversations you've had with state legislators specifically about trying to find funding for this type of a charter?
On an annual basis, you
yes.
know? So I might pull up some of my financial people to come talk about that, but I'll address the bigger picture. When we went to our friends and asked about trying to pilot this in the state, we were awarded commerce money, $500,000 commerce money to pilot that, which we just received that money. It was supposed to be in the middle part of last year. We just received it maybe about 6 months ago. And so that gave us the direction, the capabilities to go out and find some technical assistance, which quite honestly is why we're here today. We were able to put that public money to use to help figure out how to find the best pathway for this. I might see, can someone else come and help me address the funding part in terms of the state? Yeah, thank you, Elliot.
a bunch of these meetings and have spoken to anyone from, legislators to also folks like Ellen Weaver, Melanie Barton, and others. And one is people are curious about whether this school doesn't exist. There is no adult charter high school. And so people are kind of open to this idea. Could it be funded as a charter? Can we take a look at that? And I think what's really clear to us is because there's such a foundational proven model as a charter, we really feel like we want to explore that. We didn't want to do it prematurely, so we want to do that together with the staff here and see, could it be done? Is there a way that could be done where it's a charter school? And so I think that's our primary aim, because we feel like this is an equity and a community disruption issue. If we were to get some funding that could cover us for a year or two, but not have recurring funding to support our students. And so I think a primary goal that we've talked to everyone about is, can we fund it as a charter? And that's why we pursued this charter route. And I would just say in those conversations, there have been some misconceptions. I'll tell you, just a few months ago, we were talking with folks who've been working in education for a long time. We said, well, what do we do about the fact that you can't give diplomas to adults over 21? And that is just, probably 9 out of 10 people that you talk to would say that and have said it for years. And it turns out you can't. You 100% can. It's allowed in the law and it's happening right now. So we kind of look at the funding as, an attachment to that. Well, if that's allowed and there's parts of that being funded, then could we do the same thing as a charter like the other Excel centers are? So that's kind of been the essence of our conversations. I would say people leave enthusiastic about that. And what they'll say to us is, let us know if there's something that we would need to do to make that happen.
Thank you.
I have a question. First of all, thank you for the presentation. I have a question about the organization and the administrative structure. It says in that part that a rigorous process for hiring the school's director and describes a meeting where priorities will be aligned and responsibilities be transitioned to the school's director. Who will do the transition? Who's in place now to assist that person? And also, what is the process like for finding a director and hiring someone? What would you be looking for, and what certifications, or who would be on the hiring team? How would you do that?
Yeah, good question. So the first part of your question, I'm not quite sure I understood. So you're asking me in terms of the transition to get to the school director, is that what you asked?
It describes a meeting where priorities will be aligned and responsibilities will be transitioned to the school's director. Who's doing the transition? Is there someone in place now who would train that person?
Yeah, so basically, we have been operating in probably the normal startup. We had a group of us who were board members on Goodwill. We transitioned and created the 501c3 for Palmetto Excel. And we then, after some time, because of COVID and other things got set back, we started creating the board itself and basically added members to the board, which you see here today. So I believe there's currently about eight of us on the board. And so when we went to the first, we had not hired a school director because we have been unsure about our pathway. So if we had conditional approval today, our very next step would be to hire a school director. And we have, again, through the best practices of Betsy and her team, we already have this job description written. We would put out a national search, no different than any of the other Excels have done, and hire obviously the best person who is familiar with adult education. And I think that's the key. They have to be someone who understands this population. Yeah.
There is no person in place now.
That is correct. Yeah, we've just been operating as a board and then adding on some of the technical advice. Yes, ma'am.
I want to thank you for coming. Good showing, a lot of support for what you're doing. I personally want to applaud you for seeking to provide an education for adults who have yet to achieve their high school diploma. And I certainly applaud Goodwill as a nonprofit, but I know that as some nonprofits, they do operate as a business so they can help people. And so I certainly think that it's a great thing that nonprofits and business entities support initiatives like this. So to me, it's the first I've heard of something like this, and it's inspiring. Just one question. It states that there'll be a free drop-in care, I suppose, for children. Will that be funded by the budget or be provided by a separate entity?
No, we actually, in our budget, we balanced in on-site childcare. I'll tell you why. This adult population, we just know from data that this is one of the major barriers, both transportation and childcare. And so if we don't help with those particular barriers, we find that we're not going to be as successful. So that is already covered in our current budget.
And I suppose you're doing that in other locations?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Yeah, that's part of that model. I think it's part of the success of it, because many people bring their kids and leave them there on site while they're attending school.
Are the children, are they taught anything, or is it just primarily a place where they can come and hang out?
I think it depends on their age. I believe, Betsy, the age is pretty much from the age 6 to 12, if I remember. That's the approximation. You want to talk about that? Yeah.
So we'll serve any child once they're able to, have their vaccinations and everything, really from, a couple months to school age. 50% of the students that will go to the school will have young children, primarily school-age children. And we've been known even to offer camps so that the school-age children can come while their parents are coming to school. We do create a curriculum. We do follow state laws to make sure that it's a safe place and an educational space for parents to leave their children.
Thank you.
Yeah, I might add too that when we selected Trident, it was because it's in North Charleston in our home demographic, but also it's on the bus route. Buses actually run through our campus, and so thereby providing bus passes, we've taken care of the two biggest barriers: childcare and transportation.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation for your application. In the educational plan review, it says that there are other Excel sites, and then in your presentation, you said that there's something similar in Arkansas. So can you just tell me, how do those operate? And if this is the first of its kind where you would try to make it a charter model, how do the other ones operate? Are the other ones just funded by Goodwill? Is that how that works?
No, most all of the Goodwills, almost all of the Palmetto Excel are funded through the charter system. I think it varies by state because obviously there's a lot of state differences in laws. For example, in Indianapolis, I know in Betsy's area, the 5 or 6 schools are actually authorized by the mayor's office and funded separately. But outside of that, most all of the other models are funded through the charter pathway. I think that's Elliot's point, is we've already seen federal dollars and local and state dollars being funded in that particular capacity for our current models in other states.
I see. So what you're saying is that there are other charter schools doing this in other states?
Yes, sir.
It just hasn't been done in South Carolina?
That's correct. Yeah, this would be the first school like this in South Carolina.
Thank you. Yeah, Jonathan's question was going to be my first question. So in Indianapolis, the funding, the state statutes provide for funding for over 21.
Yes, that's correct.
And so that's how that's happened. Tell me what a day in the life of an Excel school student when they're there. Tell us what that experience is like. Kind of set it up for us mentally.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna answer, and I'm gonna have maybe Amy, can you talk briefly about that? I'm gonna answer it in the bigger picture. Again, you have to understand this is an adult population, and they all have busy schedules and families and other things. So part of our model is flexibility, right? And so we try to individualize every student's experience, their plan when they come to school, what kind of acceleration they might have in their particular studies. But most of our operations exist between a Monday and Thursdays, with Fridays being allocated for one-on-one conversations with the teacher, for additional catching up online and that kind of thing. So the model Excel would fit in nicely with a normal school plan from 9 a.m. to somewhere around the 3:30 through 3:45, but it is very individualized in terms of how they would experience and what they would study. Amy, you want to come up and add to that?
And let me just ask you this question.
Yes.
With 9:30 to 3:30, do you mean a student might be there for that length of time?
It varies. They could maybe come in and have just I have 2 blocks based on their particular individualized plan. Amy, you want to address some of that?
Sure. A couple of other things that could occur in a day of a particular student might be that they have job training or that they're attending dual credit there at Trident Tech. So again, very customized scheduling for each student, depending on what level of credits they bring to us, if any, what those specialized learning needs might be, and then what that pathway is going to look like. So for instance, if students are English language learners, and rather than just taking English 1, English 2, we have broken that course down into English 1A and 1B. Again, just a more comprehensive approach to slow down the learning so that those students who struggle with language acquisition are able to access the curriculum.
And let me ask you this. I recall in the capacity interview that there'll be trade instruction. It sounded like, is that correct? There'll be some things that aren't necessarily academic, but vocational. And is that correct?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And so would a path of approach for funding from our state, would it be precise in the sense that a person is over 21, that the funding might follow only those courses that are aligned with the requirements for high school graduation in South Carolina? You see what I mean? So one student might be taking 3 academic courses that align with our graduation requirements, and another student only taking 1 and taking 2 vocational. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I think that, being that we'd have to follow the state standards of what a high school diploma would be, obviously, all of our students would have to qualify for that, either that or have some type of a transcript where they might have brought in some previous credit, for example. Again, I think that the idea of job training, job certification is that this is an adult population, and one of our pillars is to make sure that this population can transition into the workforce with a certification and or become college prepared to move on into the community college system, for example. When I first visited Indianapolis, I had heard that over 70% of this population matriculates in the community college system. So these people are coming back to school because they want to. They're coming back to school because they had some life circumstance that kicked them out, and now they're hungry. They want to come back, finish it, and once they have a taste of it, they want to continue on.
I think I was communicating, see if I'm right we're on the same page. What I'm saying, I guess, is if South Carolina took a view of let's break this student's funding down to units, the unit or classes or top subjects. So the subjects that fit in with our graduation requirements, we would fund student A who's taking 2 of those. They would get 2 units. That funding would be, you would fund what fits in the alignment. But the other things that they are learning, which are so important for their vocational lives, you might not, it's kind of like looking at a full full student equivalency or something like that in a college, you see what I mean? So that the state can have a sense of pretty precise, targeted funding, not just per student funding, but per unit consistent with graduation funding.
Just keeping in mind that required in those 24 credit hours are the electives that could include that vocational training as well. So there could be.
Okay, good point. So if it did, then that would be great. So okay, I see what you're saying.
And I think also to keep in mind, I'm sorry, can I just add that? Try to check also, and you heard Amy talk earlier about the dual credit capabilities. Try to check has 150 different programs, half of which have national certifications, that we could put this population into a dual credit situation where they could also achieve a certification through Trident Tech at the same time.
It's just really a beautiful thing, really. And my last question is, was it Michael Barnes who just spoke to us as one of the last speakers?
No, unfortunately, Michael couldn't be here today.
Who, since I'm not able to see everything.
I'm sorry.
Who just sounded like the football coach?
That's our very own Jermaine Husser. Jermaine Husser, Ms. Mosteller.
Well, you go, Jermaine. I'm voting for you in addition to my vote.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. That's all.
Got actually a little more questions than I normally would have, but I want to get my head around your model.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we all know what Goodwill is and what you do in the communities across this country. Tell me a little bit about your Excel schools. Where are they? How long have you done this? What are your results?
The actual model itself?
Just the number of schools. Where are you?
Okay.
How long have you been doing it?
Betsy, come on up and I'll start the conversation.
Successful are you?
So the school model started in Indianapolis roughly a little over 10 years ago. How many states are we in now, Betsy? Come on.
We are in
6, 7 states?
Yeah. So we have over 30 different existing schools nationwide, but every state is trying to grow. For example, I've seen proposals for Arizona. I know that they're trying to put one in Georgia. Heard conversation earlier that New York is looking at the model. Florida is looking at the model. So I think it's just now starting to grow because the model has proven to be successful based on certain data that we've had.
What's been your experience? Out of the percentage of total students, how many are graduating?
I think for our model obviously is very different than most because our adult population is in transition. So what we try to do, our number one metrics is graduation rate. And I say we far surpassed, Betsy, most all of the national averages. Yes. And so our model, I believe that from what I've seen and read, we assume that basically 25% of our population is going to graduate in any given year. And so we base it based on that because everybody may not be coming in just for a particular period of time. They're in a cohort, we're in a block system, and so they tend to, obviously, certain students need certain time and certain more remediation than others.
What's the difference between the Goodwill Excel and a regular old-fashioned GED?
I think our model itself, and when I talk to the students, specifically in Indianapolis, the success of the model is about the people, about the coaching, the wraparound services that we have. Again, this population has been failed in other previous school systems. Again, it's a life circumstance, something happened to them. They had to drop out to support a father or mother, they got pregnant, whatever the life circumstance. It wasn't because they were poor students. Most of the time it was because of life circumstances. And so when we bring them back and we introduce them to this model, there's a lot of peer involvement. They help each other out, they help each other be successful. Our employers tell us that most of the people that graduate have tremendous soft skills. They have much higher level of critical thinking. And my analysis of the GED is that you're pretty much on your own. You're taking the information, you're sitting at home, you're self-studying with the ends to basically pass the test so that you can continue on it into the next level. This is building a much different person. And I think that particular person appreciates education. And I think this particular person will be more successful going forward.
In this model presented to us, your target student population is students 21 and over.
Yes, sir.
Which creates a potential funding issue here. You may not be able to answer this, but can someone in the room tell me, where's the General Assembly on the potential for funding this? I know we've got a conditional approval on this, but is the General Assembly even considering this option? Or does anybody know?
Well, in our previous conversations, I know that they have a very strong advisory group of government relations advisors who were able to help them secure the first micro, 500,000.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And I know from other conversations with the group that they have a pretty aggressive plan to, I guess, try to get money through proviso, but then see if there can't be maybe a recurring line in the budget to support a program like this through a charter program. Mike, am I on track there?
Yes, Mr. Neely. I think, conversation you and I have had, obviously, if we've seen this model work through the charter systems in other states, and we're confident that that particular model works, as best practices, we would like to obviously set our particular model up in that fashion through the charter system itself. But you're right. I mean, the Commerce has already given us public money of $500,000 with the sheer intention of funding this as a pilot, which is what we have done. We've already seen federal money being awarded to the other schools in other states. So we feel confident that we can overcome that hurdle.
Yeah, my recommendation to them would be to go and work with the governor in the off session, see if they can get money put in the governor's budget that'll come out next January, and then start working with House Ways and Means and Senate Finance Committee to start to get that funding in the budget next year.
I feel confident, Mr. Neely. I think with our team and your team and our support, I think we would have a lot of capabilities to get this done.
It's just a risk factor where you don't have a dedicated revenue stream from traditional sources, if you will.
Yes, sir.
If you're going to be at Trident Tech, I believe we have another charter school in that location as well, CAA. Have you talked to anyone from Charleston Advancement Academy and
Yes,
how
sir.
we coexist and
You know, one of the things that Trident has is we've grown and shifted some of our focus of how we have students, a lot of them online, for example. Trident has tremendous capacity. And so one of the things that I have to give credit to the leadership of Trident is that they've been very creative in reaching out to the community and providing our excess capacity and our infrastructure to some of these schools. In fact, the same building that you're just alluding to, they would be our neighbors. But we have so much capacity on our main campus, which is what we're talking about on Rivers Avenue, that the college is excited about it. And I think from my position, just at being worked at Trident Tech for 25 years, they see this as a feeder or pathway into the community college system. And I think my team has always been very innovative of creating additional pathways into the community colleges.
would Goodwill direct any of the board, or would they have any influence over who's on the board? How would that work in the school governance?
No, sir. The governance would be with the board itself. Goodwill would have no, other than a non-voting position from the CEO and perhaps the person over mission. The model itself in other states, we've had the vice president of mission simply because, again, Goodwill is an entity that gives back to the community. And so as we take money from Goodwill, I say we because I have been on the Goodwill board as well, as we generate money, say, for example, in our clothing and retail areas, that money is earmarked to help people find jobs, get education, be successful. So Goodwill has a history of helping this population out of poverty. And so when we created the idea of best practice, and you'll see in other areas, there is a connection to Goodwill, but it's not one of leadership or control. It's simply more of support. And I think that the particular board would have a chair. I'm the chair. We have a vice chair. We'd have a treasurer. We would be our own governing body.
One last question. Let's assume that all the planets align, and you got your dedicated funding stream from the federal and state sources. Goodwill's making up any amount that needs to be made up. At the end of the year, if there's a profit, well, you're not a for-profit, but if there's net income left at the end of the year, where does that money go? Does it stay with the school, or does Goodwill take it back?
Oh, no, sir. It stays with the school. The only role that Goodwill has is basically as a fiscal operator to help us make sure that we're abiding by the use of public money. For example, at some point down the road, if the schools got big enough, we could have our own treasurer and people operating it. Right now, we have a chair, a vice chair, we have a secretary, and we have a treasurer position on the board. But we would have, committees like most, efficient and effective boards, where we'd have a finance committee, for example. We'd have a academic, quality matters committee, and we'd have a governance committee. And so the board chair would operate it and work through the subcommittees to make sure that we're abiding by all the state charter laws.
All right, I need a motion. I move that we accept the board recommendation for additional approval.
Second.
Staff, just take a staff.
Staff recommendation. Yes, staff. Great, thank you. We've got a motion on the table. Is there any board discussion? Question?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, I think to Eric. Are we able, and I'm assuming we're able to take a vote on this, even though they do not have a funding stream in place from South Carolina funding stream?
Yes. That's the conditional portion.
So that is what is conditional. Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Cindy, I can hear you.
Aye.
Okay, all right, that's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir.
Guys, all get a picture of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Congratulations. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Tighten up a little bit. So back left, could we maybe shift you to the front? Yes. And then also.
Here.
Yeah. Just kneel down.
Yeah.
Come shift with you. Yeah. All right. Get ready. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right. Oh, smelling great. Y'all look smelling great as a team.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You'll be good.
Thank you for being here.
Nice to meet you. Tell your dinners, guys, we're gonna go meet the trade.
Who we gotta get on?
Will do.
I saw her in line at the airport like last week. I almost wanted to be like,
Thank you, support.
yeah.
That's all we gotta do. Rick and I go way back, you know, sort of many boards together.
You and me, you have created something so good. This is like my
Yeah.
And then, Bob Charleston advisor for you, know, sort of have to work. In my role, Friday, he's also.
So, look at me, and I'm like,
Did Jimmy Stewart, create a website?
What did you say?
Where she's from, yeah, somebody connect like that with you. I just wish you the very best. I'm looking forward to seeing it and South Carolina embrace it. Thank you, me too. Stay proud.
Cindy, can you hear us?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I'm slow to get to that mic, unused. I can hear you great.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll make this quick because I know it's been a long day. I do want to just thank each of you for all the time that you've invested going through the materials that the staff has prepared. Y'all know that there's just a lot that goes into this. Hours and hours of staff time, and then putting it all together so that you all can have it. I hope that you like the way you got the materials. You got it electronically, but also we sent you the books. If that's beneficial, let us know, and we'll continue that best practice. Hopefully, you've had enough time to go through everything. I think it showed in the questions. Y'all were very thoughtful in your questions with each of the applicants. I thought it was a great day. I like to remind people that all of these applicants have a choice in the charter market in South Carolina. And we want the real high flyers to make that their choice. But we are, at the same time, we need to ask the right questions and make sure that they have the capacity to be a great charter school for all children. A couple of weeks ago, we did something pretty unique. We had our first event here in the auditorium at the district office, and we had our first school leader summit. We'll do this twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. And so a few weeks ago, we had our school leaders here. And so Campbell's got a real short video, 2 minutes. It just kind of encapsulates everything that happened. And that's Tracy Sweet.
Thank you so much for all the teachers that provided during these challenging times. All of the education and all of you so much. It's truly in the same area of I think if we can all be child-centered in our policies and things that follow, I think we can bring us to step, but we all can actually put the kids first. And not our children are already right. You realize what it's going on. But I will tell you something, that there's a regulation around education. And when we look back at possible education, and we have regulations that have access, that includes something that's important in terms of kids working for the rest of their lives. And I would like to present to you an award of the American Violence for 2022 State Teacher of the Year, and for being winner to dedication and service to public education and children in South Carolina. Thank you very much. We support you, we appreciate you, and we respect your autonomy and independence that you have to go and execute your charter and live out the vision of the community that you live in our children. So on behalf of all of us, we just want to say thank you for what you do. You are our charter champions because you have always put things first. Guys, you look at the flag, for you all for the best of all. You're the most of the minister of the world. You were never. You were the conduit. You never reached the area. You were the years. You desired for someone to listen. You're the most God in the way that you were there to listen. And you're part of someone that is on the precipice of changing the way you live.
for it, it's not like that. You listen to it on your own personal device. Campbell, let's make sure everybody, let's make sure. But it was a great day. It's great having all our school leaders here. They were so excited. We had just amazing learning sessions and topics and discussions, partnerships that we're developing with some of our universities and work that we're doing. So, we've never done anything that big here. When you think back at our old office and the little space we had, we couldn't even have our school leaders all in the building at one time to go out, celebrate and learn together. A few things I just wanted to touch on. The South Carolina Senate right now is debating the budget. They have a slightly different version of the new funding formula. I really can't share with you the details because I don't know at the end of the day what it's going to look like. I just know that they've made a few changes to it. I think either way, whether it's the House or the Senate or a compromised version, charter schools are going to win. It's going to be great for our schools and our students, and it will really focus on funding children and looking at their needs because, as we all like to say, no children start from the same place, and they all have unique needs. And this is a funding formula that will do just that. In a couple weeks, we have another board meeting. I know it's a quick turnaround, but because of this late board meeting, so May 12th, we'll have another board meeting at 10 o'clock. I promise it'll be much shorter. It'll be on our traditional time slot, 10 o'clock on May 12th. We have to have that meeting though, because we have to do the first reading of our district budget. And then we will have a second reading at our June meeting on June 9th. And then we will do a quick virtual meeting publicly where we have third reading. Because we have to get 3 readings in so we can have our budget. Now look, we're going to really base it off of last year plus our increases that we project because we really don't know what the state budget is going to look like. We can always make adjustments, and I think by June we will have a final state budget. You all got to meet Dr. Billy Strickland today. He was approved. Cindy, I'm sorry you didn't get to meet Dr. Strickland. He is going to be SCAS's representative on our board, replacing Keith Calcutt. He was approved by the Senate today with no questions, I understand. It sounded like it went really well. I think USC was on deck right after him, so they were really eager to get into that. And so he's got to get full confirmation from the full Senate floor, and then the Secretary of State will certify. I project that he'll be able to serve on the board starting in June. So Dr. Pope knows Dr. Strickland. I've known him for about 4 years. John Payne knows him, John R. Payne, and he said, "I can't believe y'all have 2 Paynes." But actually, he was your teacher in high school, believe it or not. But he's a former high school principal, former coach, former superintendent, and the former head of the Western Carolina, consortium. So just a great person. He'll be a great addition. And I've got to commend SCASA. Not only have I been engaged with them and attend all their meetings and the SEAL trainings, but Beth Phillips and everybody at SCASA have been great partners. And she worked with me on this. She called me and she wanted to make sure this was somebody that we could work with. It would be good with our board. And as soon as she told me it was Dr. Billy Strickland, I'm like, let's go for it. And the governor's office signed on. That's what collaboration and working together does. That relationship didn't exist 2 years ago, and now it's just thriving. But I want to do a shout out for SCASA and Beth Phillips on that. And then I just want to close by, thanking our applicants. I know they're all gone. Maybe they're still tuned in, online, but there's a lot of work that goes into this. They have to have a vision, a dream, and then to see that become a reality. And I thought we had just some great testimonies and stories today. And, the Heritage School, I'm excited about them coming back next year. They know now what they need to do. We're going to work with them in the off season to ensure, just like we did with Fort Hill, that they can come back and have the best plan to demonstrate capacity and be able to operate a school and have the resources to keep it sustainable and also then provide all the supports they need for these children that they want to serve. And then finally, I just want to thank the staff again and the board for all your support, all the investment of time and energy that you make into this, all that Eric has been doing to help provide guidance. There's so many legal questions in all of this, and so he's our 411 on all those things. And so I just thank everybody. So, Mr. Chairman, that's the end of my report. Any questions?
Any questions for Superintendent Taylor? All right, we will adjourn.
Kristen Farmer, great job.
Thank you.